and welcome to a special broadcast on Tiranga TV. My name is Palak Sharma. In this special series, we shift our focus from the world of politics to the grim reality of acute water crisis being faced by citizens across the country. It's a Tiranga TV pan-India campaign wherein we will get you ground reports from across the country and try to understand why we are still besieged with a water crisis of this magnitude almost every blistering summer. Today, we bring to you some ground report from Karnataka by our correspondent Sagai Raj.
Situated amidst high-rise apartments and a tech park, Ramgondanahalli is barely 18 kilometers away from the Vidhan Saudha. Ironically, the village surrounded with lakes is facing an acute shortage of water and is firmly in the clutches of the water tanker mafia.
And to discuss this menace of water crisis and the water mafia controlling it, we are now joined by our correspondent Sagai Raj. Also in the studios, we have Mr. K.Siddhartha, an earth scientist of international stature, who's joining us. Glad you could join us, sir, on this special broadcast. Also, Sagai Raj. Now, Sagai Raj, we just heard Sanjeev Raj taking a threatening tone with you. How rampant is the influence of water mafia in and around Bengaluru? Let me ask, in fact, Mr. Siddhartha also a question. Mr. Siddhartha, you are an author, educationist and earth scientist and have an experience of working with national and international institutions of the government and academics. What do you think is the real reason behind Bengaluru's acute water crisis being witnessed today?
There are three sets of reasons behind it. First, of course, is going to be, as we went on to see in this part, is the issue of water governance. Now, environmental governance, water governance now is a required niche subject which requires some degree of a speciality in order to cater to the needs of the people, poor people, particularly those people who cannot go on to be empowered or cannot go on to think of getting themselves empowered. That's one part. So, the issue is right now with respect to water governance. The second is most of this problem has taken place which requires water governance is largely because of a complete neglect of the natural resources and a lack of environmental ethics and integrity. Because people are not sensitive to their environment, people are not sensitive towards the natural conditions and the milieu around it. Consequently, they have allowed a lot of trees to be depleted. And imagine Karnataka happens to be a hard rock terrain, where there is nothing called as a groundwater table. Most of this water goes on to be in the fissures or in the cracks. So, once it goes on to get filled up with water, then it remains in that place for a substantial period of a time. But only if it remains in that place. It is not like that of a gangetic plain where it can go to get recharged rather easily. It's very difficult to recharge the groundwater conditions in places like Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and other regions. That's the second reason. The third reason is now, even if we go to account for some amount of recharge taking place, it is very difficult in those conditions, largely because the whole of the surface has been covered with a concrete jungle. Now, there is hardly any tree left in that place that will go on to soak the water, that will go on to absorb it, work like a sponge and go to release it. The fourth is the complete neglect by the government, taking people for granted. That is what the government goes on to do. And people
in fact,
go
so that
on to
was my second question to you. We just heard that a person, water mafia, in fact, threatening our correspondent. How much responsibility would you place on the government of the day for this alarming situation?
It is indeed government, because if the government wants to solve the problem, it is so easy for the government to solve the problem. Government has all the data. Government has all the information, government has all the people who are going to make policies, government has all the means and measures to implement these type of policies. So, if there is a problem that is cropping up, it's only because of government, because of no one else. Of course, people can go on to be blamed, but you can always go on to control people, you can always go on to educate people, you can always go on to take people's help into account. People have a right to complain and they are to be blamed, if not equally, but of course to a lesser extent, because they are the one, their neglect, their inability to understand the situation has led to this type of a situation.
It has to be the government. Mr. Siddhartha, I'd like to bring this to you. India is largely becoming, a study of contrast. On one hand, you see a lot of affluence, you see prosperity, and it's bewildering to see that, people are still, a large section of our population is still grappling with something as basic an issue as water. What are your comments quickly?
That's correct. This is largely on account of, as I said, that is water governance. Environmental governance and water governance is a part of it. Because when you go on to really want to govern it, what you do is you go on to take into account who are the people who are going to be inhabiting the region, what will be the demand, what will be the future demand, what future demand will going to entail for water resources and the pressure on the forest and the other areas, what will be the likely solution of it, what are going to be the plans associated with it. Now, when you can go on to make a plan, then most of this plan goes on to be for what you talked about, that is the basic necessity.
Right.
Affluent people, in any case, what they can go on to do is, they will, as they're going to do in Punjab, where the surface water or the groundwater goes on depleted, they go on to dig a bore well that goes on to deep down and then goes on to obtain water.
Right.
Now they can spend some amount of money and a good amount of money on that part because that is peanuts for them. But most of the people who are going to be dependent on the government supplies and they are dependent on governance for their basic necessities, they are indeed
And
going
sir,
to be
do you
suffering.
also recall any other country who's facing a similar problem like ours?
There are countries, for example, some time back, Ethiopia went to face a major problem, but that problem was associated with the deforestation in the Sahel region. Mali faced this problem, Mauritania faced this problem, and if you're going to take a look at it, Saudi Arabia is going to be facing a major problem because the groundwater table has completely dipped inside, but then they are petrol rich, cash rich, they can go on to do a lot of things, for example, taking water from the sea and go on to desalinize it. So the world indeed is going to be suffering from that type of problem. And if you're going to add geopolitical dimension to it, China is sitting on a huge reservoir of water, and it will be onto the whims of China whether it can go to supply Brahmaputra water to India in the future or not, to Punjab or also not, to Satluj, to Mekong, to Irrawaddy, to Burma, to Thailand.
Right.
Now, these are going to be the issues that are going to be associated with the creation of a crisis.
So it's more like a
crisis.
geopolitical issue as well, you're saying?
Worldwide, it's a geopolitical issue. Then it's an environmental issue. And that at the local level, it is going to be a governance issue.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. K.Siddhartha, for getting us your insights and analysis. Thank your guests also, Sagai Raj. Thank you for joining us and watching this special broadcast. Tomorrow, continuing our campaign, we will also get you another ground report from a different state. News and updates continue on Tiranga TV. Do keep watching.